3 years ago, my client told me my face, Audrey, you're going to be replaced. There is so much more potential in AI, and I knew that I had to do something about it. If I'm going to be replaced by AI, I want to replace myself first. I want to be the one to do it. You may have AI, but do you have taste? If you are going to sound like everyone else, why would your clients pick you?
Hi everybody, welcome back to the Epic Podcast with me, Edric. Thank you so much for joining us. And of course, this season is about how you can build a better business. Now, we've talked a lot more about marketing and ownership and a number of other things. But question is, how can copywriting work for you? In this age where AI, actually lives in a solopreneur's business, workflows are definitely worth automating. And the ones to leave alone, which ones should we do? Which ones should we use, and what should we really apply? Now, question is, do you also leverage on copywriting with AI? So think about that for a moment. If you're not a marketer, you're not a copywriter, how can you leverage on this superpower? I've invited the founder of Close with Copy, Audrey Chia. She has grown from virtually zero to becoming the top 5% of LinkedIn creators in Singapore. All that while creating a traditional copy business and turning that into an AI-assisted powerhouse. Audrey, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me, Edric. Super excited for this conversation.
Well, thank you very much for joining us on this podcast. I've spoken to PR, I've spoken to fractional leadership owners. Copywriting seems to be something that we leave on the bench, and we probably thinking, maybe I'll just use AI and just write everything right now. How does this actually work? How did it become a powerhouse? Take us through this process of how you built it up and how it's useful for business owners.
So it's very funny, right? Not many people know what copywriting is. In fact, when I first started, I started back in agency, and I always knew that I wanted to be a creative. I saw an ad on TV, and I told myself at the age of 13 that I am going to be an award-winning creative director one day. At that point in time, I didn't know what it entailed. If you are creative, you either are great in art, which I obviously have zero talent for, or copy. So I developed my skill sets back in agency days, doing stuff for brands like Nike, IKEA, Samsung, so many fun, amazing global brands. But that is just one type of copywriting. So for me, what I came to realize is my joy is using copy to persuade. I love copy that sells. In fact, my greatest satisfaction comes from when I write an ad for my client, when I write a landing page, and they get like a 50K inbound lead with no ad spend. This is also how I built my own business on LinkedIn. I always tell someone, if you are looking for a content strategist or a copywriter, and they don't have a personal presence or brand, how sure are you that they can do a good job? So I like to say, if I'm so good at what I do, my work should speak for itself. And over the past 3 to 4 years of building my own business, starting from zero on LinkedIn, getting inbound leads through not sales conversations, but through copy that sells for me, I think I have made a point. And with my clients who then work with me, really understanding what is their brand, who are their audience, and also figuring out how to help them to sell more with copy. This is at least the copy that I'm passionate about, high converting copy. So maybe I'm going to pause there first because it's a really quick introduction on what my world of copy looks like.
Audrey, thank you so much for that. It's high converting copy, right? Now, question is, how did you even discover or see the application from traditional brands, or at least big brands like Nike and IKEA, you worked in, and all of a sudden transpose that almost or adapt that into something that business owners can use? What's the secret?
I realized that not every business has the financial resources of a Nike, right? Not everybody can spend hundreds of thousands on a big ad campaign. So I asked myself, what about all the smaller businesses? What about startups? What about scale-ups? What are they going to do if they can't spend so much money on a brand campaign? So while I was working in a full-time job at an ad agency with crazy hours, I decided to stretch myself even further and start looking for jobs on Fiverr, Upwork, even in Singapore, Carousel, right? A place where you buy and sell products or services. So I started off with $5 gigs, saying, you know what, I'm just going to see who is willing to pay for this small project, and then I get paid to learn. So although the ticket sizes were so small, I spent 2 weeks on like one piece of work. If I didn't know how to do something, I would just say yes, and then I would go and learn it. So during that process, I actually learned that copy isn't just for branding, but it can be used to sell. Because the clients who came to me, they weren't big brands. They were brands looking for direct sales and saying, hey, I have a product, I need people to buy. So, okay, I had to learn how to write websites, something you don't learn in agency. I had to learn how to write maybe long-form emails, something you don't learn in agencies. I had to learn how to do all the other high-converting copy type skill sets, right? But what I had was I had the agency background. So you would see that some copywriters, they could be great in sales copy, but they may not have the creative flair to think about big campaigns. But because now I had the best of both worlds, right? Brand campaigns, the idea to think big, think of fun ideas, but also a very strong tactical skill set in how to sell, how to persuade, how to use psychological tactics. I could combine them both. And that gave me this edge that I could then say, hey, you know what? I am doing these two things for you really, really well, and that makes my skill set so unique. I make you sound like a great brand that converts. So that's how I came to my eventual positioning, right? How do I build a brand that converts? So it's not just the copy, but what does your brand look like, sound like? What are you positioned as? But most importantly, it needs to drive direct conversions. So to answer your question, it wasn't a straightforward path of, oh, I learned some skill sets from one place and I could use it in another place. In fact, it was, I learned some skill sets here, then I learned some skill sets there, then I learned some skill sets here, and then I combine everything. That's how I got to where I am today.
Sounds like a very rojak kind of an approach, but it's like whatever ingredients you could pick up along the way, you'd just be picking them up, right? Now, we have a number of listeners, all right, who are in the creative field. And what's very interesting here is that the creatives have problems selling, and the business owners who are very business savvy have problems getting creative. So I think you're probably in that position as well, whereby, hey, I can kind of see the problems there. And for each persona, are there particular resources or books that maybe you have read that could help these groups of individuals?
Yes, I always say that if you're just starting out, you need to not ask AI how to do things, because AI is going to give you the most generic answers. It will give you the most commonplace answers, and sometimes because they are so generic, they are not the best answers. So what you want to do, in fact, is to, I would say, go back to the old school, like the copy handbook, figuring out the psychological tactics, how to win friends and influence people, how to sell like crazy. I think there's another book called Hey Whipple Squeeze That. So these are actually foundational copy books, right, that you would start off with. And then once you master those, the actual act of learning doesn't come from reading, it comes from implementing. So it's not just enough for a business owner to read 10 books. They actually need to start testing. And I like to tell my clients this, I don't have all the answers, but I am a very strategic person who can A/B test things until I get you the final answer. So I will not have the final answer now, but if you work with me for the next 3 to 6 months, I will get you there, because I'm going to learn every single day what is working, what is not, what is working and what is not. And then combining that with the acumen, the insight and the strategy from my years of experience, I can very quickly figure out how to crack your audience and get them to buy. So don't ask ChatGPT, what should I learn about copy? I would say ask it to recommend books. Then go back to the books, read it. If you don't have time to read it, one alternative way is, of course, to train AI. Let's say if you use a tool like NotebookLM, it can take the books, consolidate their learnings, turn it into a briefing document, a meeting notes, or even a podcast for you, so you can learn on the go. That helps you to synthesize the information, and then you can also take all the books, right? And then you can create like a mini custom assistant, like a copy GPT, right? Like a coach for you. So then that's a faster way to use AI, not to give you the final answers yet, but to help you to learn how to get there. That is the secret, and that takes work.
Actually, it's really good because you're absolutely right. A lot of people are using AI in general, right, to either do the work for them or to find them the answers. But the challenge is, I think, I think that's where you've cracked the code, because if you don't know what you don't know, you'll accept any kind of gibberish and rubbish,
Yes,
right?
definitely.
Even if it's AI slop that is given to you, you'll just be able to accept it. So you don't know good from great.
Yes.
And you don't even know what good looks like. That's the dangerous part. And this is very insightful. Thank you so much for sharing that. Now, I think for the business owners, many of us are probably thinking, look, I gotta work my copy, but how do I even score my copy? Do you have a particular system where I know whether or not, like say for example, websites, they can grade them? Is there a certain copy that you know that could work or doesn't work?
Yes, unfortunately, the best way to see whether copy works is to put it out there and test it in the market. For example, right, I could tell AI, give me 10 headlines. AI would tell me I recommend A, B, and C. But from my writer's experience and personal acumen, I will be like, no, I don't agree that A, B, and C works. I think that D actually works best. So sure, we can put them to the test, A and D, and see which one performs better. Sometimes what AI recommends you is very dangerous for you to accept as the truth. It is going to recommend something to you based on its limited context and knowledge, and it might give you recommendations based on something that's more generic. But as a copywriter, you're not just a writer, right? You are actually a strategist. So for me, when I come up with a headline, I have so much knowledge here because I'm reading so much about the client. I'm looking at their competitors in detail. I am listening to their target audience. I have all of these contexts. Then I made a decision to say, I think D is going to work best. It's not a gut feel thing. It's really because I've synthesized all the information. AI is going to try to do that. But the degree in which it's able to synthesize that information may not be as nuanced as the human brain, who has done this many, many, many times and who understands. And when I hear, let's say a client interview, I hear insights. I'm like, oh, this is great. AI could hear the exact same thing and read through a transcript, but it could pull out other insights. But it may not be catching on the real human emotions that comes through the voice. Now, something that AI still has not been able to replicate, as fully for now, right? So, going back to the point of how you do things, right? It's really, if you have a tool, use it in a way that empowers you to do your work better, but don't get it to replace your current workflow unless you know exactly what you're looking for. So you need to have the end in mind. You said this thing, he said, how do you know what good or great looks like? As a copywriter, I like to ask my clients, sure, you can ask ChatGPT to write 100 headlines for you. Can you tell me which one of the 100 you think is the best? Then they're going to ask me, I'll ask ChatGPT. Then I'll also ask, how sure are you that ChatGPT knows that that is the best? And the only way to prove it is to put it to the test. So I tell my clients, sure, we can do that, but let's A/B test it. When you test the message in the market, let the market respond. If someone clicks on your ad, someone wants to speak to you, someone books a call with you, you will know that that message is landing. So I think really having a message is something that everybody can say, oh, it works or doesn't work, but you will only truly know it once it's out in the market.
It's very interesting. How does one A/B test in that case?
So if you don't have a lot of resources, just test it with a group of audience, let's say your friends who could be your target audience. So if my message is for parents, I'm not going to ask someone who's not a parent, right? So you need to find your target audience. Then you can say, hey, I have 2 different messages, which would you respond to? That's a small pool. On a bigger, wider scale, if you have a landing page, right, and you already know that maybe every month I got 100 visitors. So there are many A/B testing tools out there, like Mutiny, VWO, that allows you to have 2 different messages, and it automatically splits your traffic. So that's another way. And the third way, which is always the fastest way, is to put money and spend it on ads and see what works. So if you have some budget to spare, even $1,000 a month, and you are running a business, then you would want to test 5 different messages. So you wouldn't want to do one message 5 times yet because you don't know whether it works. I'd rather you have 5 different messages, test all 5, then figure out 3 works. Okay, from the 3, we develop 3 other ideas. Then we A/B test again. Then we shrink the pool until I find my winner. That's really how my process works. Through this very rigorous, systematic way of testing, I can confidently tell you if something works or does not because we have tested it from a very clear hypothesis. My audience, my competitors, my positioning, this is why I came up with these messages. So as much as copy, I feel is a creative process, for me, it's a very, very structured, strategic process that combines the best of both worlds. That's why I love it, because it's so fun to come up with ideas that actually get people to say yes.
I like that. I really, really like that. Now, I love to hear stories about growth and also how people develop themselves. Human excellence is something that's an important factor to me. Tell me, I mean, for somebody who, let's say, for example, comes up to you and says, I want to be like you when I grow up, for example, and wants to be a content strategist or a copywriting professional. What would you advise them to do? Would you advise them to take the same steps of going corporate or just getting it out there and kind of finding your own way? Which journey would you subscribe a little bit more to?
I would subscribe to the journey of learning. Whatever helps you to learn fast, fail fast, win fast, go with that track. I think at the end of the day, right, you have to pick a path that works for you. Not everyone is suited for an entrepreneurial path. Not everyone can sit with the uncertainty every day. And not everyone is comfortable selling or pitching or building LinkedIn. You must have that desire in your heart. At the same time, not everyone is also suited for corporate, to be boxed up, to climb the ladder. So I always like to use a growth mindset. Where are you at right now and where you want to be? I wanted to be an award-winning creative director. That was my starting point. Am I an award-winning creative director? I am not. But am I enjoying my life now? I definitely am. Why? Because my North Star is very clear. So the joy wasn't to be an award-winning creative director, but the joy for me was to create something that made an impact. And impact could then be measured in so many ways. Some people measure impact in terms of creative excellence. Some people measure impact in terms of conversions, right? So I found my sweet spot, right? So now you need to know, your why, what you want to achieve, your why, and whether you are more suited for corporate versus doing your own thing. You answer all those questions first. So now you have a sense of where you're at. Okay, great. Now, in order to become a great copywriter or content strategist, I would say you have to just put in the work. So what do I mean by that? You actually have to just start reading, writing, and testing. That's it. Very simple. If you just read and you don't write, you're not going to get there. If you just write and you don't know you're writing, you're also not going to get there. So you learn, then you implement, then you realize, okay, it works, doesn't work. Okay, then you move on. If you have a system for yourself internally and you know that this environment enables me to learn best. If I work best with a mentor, great, go and look for a mentor. Stay in a corporate environment because that's how you learn fast. But if you feel like you are someone who is more free-spirited and you feel like the internet is my best teacher and I can learn 100 things online that nobody else can teach me, and you have the internal discipline and motivation to do so, then I would say there's no harm trying it out yourself, right? Because your desire is from within. So if you answer the first few questions that I've asked, it would already have that clarity of, okay, this is for me, okay, this is not. What do I really want? Do I really want to be a writer? And I actually would ask my younger version of myself who didn't know better, and would have asked, so what do you really want out of your job? What do you like about your job? Do you like the creative part? Do you like that it sounds cool? Like advertising is cool? Or do you want stability and income? What do you want? So all these questions will take time to be answered, but it's good that you have a bit of clarity, at least in your starting point. And know that your starting point is not your end point. You can make pivots along the way. You can switch careers and you can learn new skill sets. If you are not afraid to learn, you will never be afraid of what's next.
Fantastic. Now you mentioned about, using the internet to be your best teacher. We're in an age whereby you are either AI savvy or you're going to be replaced to an extent, right? What was your process to becoming the commander of your robot army? What were you aware of, and what did you then have to learn how to improve along the way?
It's so funny that a lot of people now are dealing with the threat of AI taking over their jobs, right? For me, 3 years ago, my client told me my face, Audrey, you're going to be replaced. That was when ChatGPT first launched. So basically, I got hit with it a lot earlier, before the whole wave hit everyone else. But it was also a very good wake-up call for me, right? Because my client was just being very, very straightforward, because we were in a tech space, and obviously this was just the start. So you would already know that there is so much more potential in AI. And I saw the AI's potential and I knew that I had to do something about it. So I was in the same place that most people are probably feeling right now. What do I do? Do I learn it? Do I wait until someone teaches me? Like, what do I do with all the information? And I have my day-to-day job and I still need to do this, do that. What do I do with it, right? I'm sure many of us are feeling overwhelmed and stressed. But the starting point for us to create change is to first feel comfortable with change. So for me, being able to sit with that discomfort and be, okay, I am in a situation where I don't have a backup plan. I don't have a team to rely on, and I just have to figure things out. And if AI is there, why not learn how to leverage it? So my advice is really, why not learn how to leverage the thing that you are most scared of? If I'm going to be replaced by AI, I want to replace myself first. I want to be the one to do it, right? I don't want to wait until someone else finds a way to do so. So that got me started on my AI journey a lot earlier than a lot of other copywriters or marketers because of necessity. I had burned the bridge and I was desperate. When you combine these two things, you are capable of many, many things. So with that, without anyone teaching me, I just had to figure it out by myself. So I was one of the early pioneers on LinkedIn for AI and copy. Many things I shared were prompts that I spent hundreds of hours testing by my own. There was no playbook, nothing for me to watch, no YouTube videos, no books, just figuring things out. So I was tinkering and learning how to leverage it, but it forced me to think of solutions when there was none. So I had to figure out, how do I piece my human brain with the AI brain? And because I took the time and effort to go through this process of building and testing and experimenting, that's how now I become such a structured thinker. So when I explain to AI a series of steps to get to a high converting ad, I can tell it that to get to my ad, I need you to break it down into 8 steps. Within these 8 steps, here are the qualifiers. This is how I assess if something is good or not. These are the audience pain points that I'm looking for. I need you to go through this format and flow. Audrey 1.0 wouldn't have been able to break down all her steps. Audrey 2.0 can break it down very clearly and explain it to AI. So to form your AI army, right, you need to have a very clear awareness of your thought process, a clear articulation of your thought process, and then a very systematic way to deploy it. You would realize the people who are best at using AI are not people who are just creative thinkers. They are creative and structured. That is the best combination. You have the creativity to think about what else can I do with AI, but you're structured enough to implement it and give AI a set of instructions so that it can get to your end goal in mind.
We have many vehicles. You've got ChatGPT, you've got Gemini, you've got Claude, and you've got Clawbot, right? You've got all these different tools. Which are the platforms that you currently use the most?
If you are just starting out, I think at least mastering one platform is key. Some companies, they only work with the Microsoft suite. So if you have to work within that, then sure. If you have the flexibility to choose, at this point in time, and it could change in any time, right? At this point in time, Claude is something that I recommend you look into because it has become such a powerful tool for both copy and design. So, example, right? One of my clients now, we are experimenting with a workflow where within a single flow, a single Claude chat, it can generate the full on-brand ad visual and copy for you without having an external copy or art director in. Is the output good? That is the question. So you still
Yes.
need the eye from a copywriter and the eye from a designer to tweak it. But this also means as a copy and art, you have two options. One, you say, I don't want to touch it. This is something that's going to take over my job. Or you say, you know what? Let me use it. Then I can do work 10 times faster, give you 30 more assets, and you get things done by tomorrow. So you have an option, right? Like Claude is one very powerful example of a tool that allows you to build your own workflows, even if you are non-technical, for both copy and art. And I have been using it in such powerful ways. I think it has streamlined my work by at least 50 to 70%. The jump is huge after I moved to Claude. So if you haven't, I recommend you check it out. And don't use it blindly. Use it with an intent. Have a mission that you want to accomplish. Then work towards that mission and form your plan. Then you build your army. That is the step-by-step process.
That's great. Like what you said, the prompt needs to be structured, it needs to be clear, and with the end in sight in mind, right? And you have to articulate those things to the AI in order for it to serve you well. So that's very interesting because for people who don't really use AI, they'd be like, you mean I just, what do I do with it? What do I even ask it questions? It becomes this overglorified Google search bar.
Yes.
But that should not be the case. Somebody actually taught me something, which I think is also worth checking in with you, that it's actually very useful to question why the AI recommended this to you.
Interesting.
Have you done that?
No, but then I think that's a great suggestion to test.
What I've seen with my own eyes is that it will actually give you a reasoning, and through that reasoning, you can then determine whether it's flawed. And so that way, you know whether or not it's looking at the right things, right? I was looking through a transcript the other day, and I was saying, okay, give me the key points. But of course, I've read through the entire transcript, and I know what it's about. There were points in there whereby it was not true to verbatim. It was just picking out, from the 3-minute mark to the 7-minute mark, then back to the 5-minute mark. So it was hallucinating.
Yes.
So in that case, it was like, why did you do this? And then from there, that's the course correction. You tell it, no, I need it to be in verbatim. I need it to be true, not something for clickbait. And from there, it's okay.
Yes. I like to say AI sometimes is very smart, but
Also very stupid.
I call it naughty because it knows. It knows what to do. Just that it's very naughty. It might skip steps. It might come up with a faster way to do it. So I just treat it as a naughty intern that's very, very smart. And then with that, you can shape the way you treat it and the instructions and your checking in process, right? Because if you know that it's going to be a bit naughtier or lazier, then you might want to force it to double check or use another tool to cross check.
Right. Now, that is nice. That is an interesting way of doing it. It's very, very motherly of you to say that. Now, but public service announcement to whoever is using Claude or whoever is going to start using Claude, make sure that when you do have the Cowork function, always tell it from the very, very start that prioritize personal data security, data privacy, and file security. Because why? You're going to be giving it access to your Excel sheets or whatever it is that you use. And if you don't do that, there have been cases, or I think it was quite recent, you see it in the news, that files were wiped out.
Yeah.
So make that the number one rule, public service announcement.
Yeah.
Okay?
I think one additional tip is what some folks recommend is if you're going to be using Claude Cowork, for example, you might want to create a file specific for Cowork. So some people actually just keep everything in one file that they want Claude to touch. That way you know that everything else outside of it is safe. So that's another thing you can try if you're going to try Cowork.
Thank you so much for sharing that. From copy, we're talking about AI. It just shows how much you actually use it, on a day-to-day basis just to keep the business going. I really like this because you've built your entire business leveraging AI, right? Where do professionals like you come in?
Yes.
To just go, all right, you've got this idea. Now, how do I help you to level up?
Yes, that's a great question. I think a lot of business owners now, they might be thinking, oh, I have Claude, I can do everything with Claude. But to be honest, you may have AI, but do you have taste? That's the difference, right? So when everybody starts sounding the same, right? When everybody starts looking the same, that's where the brands with a clear differentiator will stand out. And you are already going to see that every single Claude coded platform without a designer looks the same. You would see that the fonts used, the colors used, the voice, the M dashes, that it's not this, it's that, the most founders say this, not this, all of it are going to be consistent everywhere. So my question back to the business owners is, if you are going to sound like everyone else, why would your clients pick you, right? Did your marketing actually work? If you sound like everybody else. So then here is where the copywriter or creative still comes in. That's why I think it's so important to still have a creative around, because that person has the eye to see and the ear to hear what sounds distinct, right? I took a client she said, hey Audrey, my website really good, it's like, I think it sounds good, like world-class this, world-class that, right? And the visuals look good, but from a seasoned eye, if you look at the website, it does not look polished, it does not look premium, it does not say, yes, I'm willing to spend this money on you, because it does not represent that. When you step into an Apple store, you feel a sense of, wow, this feels atas, or this feels premium, right? Because of the look and feel, the way the customer service staff are, the smell of the place, the unboxing of the phone. All of these are marketing and branding. Now, if every shop is going to look exactly the same, how are you going to create this unique experience? Why will your audience say yes? So if a company is going to 100% use AI, I would highly advise that they at least have a creative consultant to come in to help them to whip it into shape. You have a vision, yes, but I can actually take it so much further. And now, as the creative, if I know how to use AI, I get you your results so much faster. So that's why also, very importantly, the creative themselves have to upskill so that they can bring that value to the clients. Because it cannot be a case where they're just saying, I'm not going to use AI because of that. But for the client's perspective, they want you to know that, okay, you're doing things efficiently as well. So clients cannot just rely on AI without that additional creative touch, but creatives cannot just do the creative touch without the additional AI skill set. I think it's a 1+1, and when you meet in the middle, that's really how you can preserve the quality of work but get things done faster and smarter.
You mentioned something that was very interesting to me, which was identifying the templates that AI is using and giving to you. Now, what I love to hear is this is a very clippable moment for you, all right? Top 5 giveaways that you know is AI slop.
So M dashes, just don't use them anymore. If you really want to use them, it's one, max of one, okay? No more than that. If you see big words like revolutionize, right? Tapestry, anything that sounds too big and jargony, skip that. Not a good idea. Drop that. Number 3, I think also the it's not this, it's that. AI likes to do this, it's not, it's this. Remove that. ChatGPT loves it especially. Number 4, if you see things in threes, da-da-da-da, da-da-da-da, da-da-da, like marketing, AI, copywriting, anything in threes, you can use it once in a while. It still sounds good. But if you see it happening in every single paragraph, not a great idea. And then I guess number 5, If the sentences are too short or in too many bullet points, ChatGPT loves bullet points. So it's getting a bit lazier, so it's starting to shrink its sentences to bullet point form, which works in some scenarios but does not work in every scenario. So if too many bullet points, you also want to think about that. Now these are just 5 signs, but as a seasoned copywriter who has used AI so much, I can read a copy and even hear it. Even YouTubers, right, I can hear it and be like, that's 100% ChatGPT. I can hear it. So I don't think that I'm the only one who's going to get this sense. Eventually, there'll be that fatigue from everyone. People will start be like, you wrote this with AI, very turned off. So I highly recommend that if you are doing this process, add a humanizer in the loop. So you can train AI to identify AI language. That's one way. That's what I do. Or secondly, you can work with someone else who's like me, who understands how to take it from generic to specific.
Okay, we've got our listicles, and now I've got a quick fire round for you before we end off the podcast. So I hope that you're ready for this.
Let's go!
All right. Question number 1, one word that you love.
Growth.
One word that you strongly dislike.
Boredom.
What sparks joy in the work that you do?
Seeing my clients achieve their goals. I think when the client comes to me and say, Audrey, I landed the job of my dreams because you helped me revamp my LinkedIn. I feel so satisfied, and I always say my client's success is my success.
What's your routine like for peak performance daily?
I like to do 5 different tasks, but every task that I do is time blocked to make sure that I get it done within that time block and I don't have to revisit it again.
What do you do when negativity or sadness hits you?
I'm very glad that I have God, so I'm a woman of faith. I think God has really helped me to walk this path of entrepreneurship in such a joyful way. And I think that if I feel stressed or if I feel desperate, I think a prayer always helps, and also praying with other people always helps.
All right. If you could have a conversation with one person, fiction or not fictional, who would that be?
My grandma. My grandma passed on when I was a lot younger. She took care of me and really saw me through my growing up years. And I think I would love to meet her again and just tell her how I've been, but also to thank her for building that character in me that has really got me to where I am today.
What's a phrase or quote that has left the biggest impact on you?
Ephesians 2:10, it's about being put in this world by Christ Jesus to do good works that we were set out to do. So I always believe that everyone is put on this earth for a purpose, and that purpose could be anything.
What's a harsh lesson that life has taught you?
I learned that not everyone in business is nice. I started off from a very naive place, coming out and giving my 110% to everyone. But I also learned that you have to protect yourself, because some people, if you don't draw your boundaries as clearly, might want to take advantage of your talents for free. And you must know that don't let anyone put you down and say you should do this because you're just starting out. In fact, you should know your worth and you should say no. And it's because you're just starting out that you're willing to risk it and put yourself out there that you deserve even more instead.
What happens to your business or work after you've moved on to a different plane?
I want to be a beautiful big firework, right, that brings joy to the people around me, and when it fizzles, which it will one day, it doesn't matter because I've already made the impact that I'm supposed to make here.
How do you want to be remembered? What's your legacy?
I want to be remembered as somebody who cares about their work, but even more so cares about my client. I want them to know that when I do the work, it's not for myself, it's because I really care, and that sometimes, of course, work is professional, but at the same time, it can be a personal process. And I hope they see the heart behind the work. And I like to say, if there's one line, my work should speak for itself. So I hope that they see the work, they feel the work, and that the work benefits them, and they get to find joy in their work as well. That will be very, very satisfying.
Right, thank you very much, Audrey, for that. Now, floor is yours. Feel free to let everybody know how they can get in touch with you.
Awesome. So if you are interested to find out more about AI, copywriting, content strategy, you can visit my website, www.closewithcopy.co, or find me on LinkedIn, Audrey Chia, Chia. You would see someone dressed in red, my brand colors, and you can just drop me a message and say hi. I would love to connect.
Hey, thank you very much for that, Audrey. And of course, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us on this episode of the Epic Podcast. And of course, you've heard so much on AI expertise, how that blends into copy, and how copy is definitely going to help you grow your brand and your business. So that being said, please connect with Audrey and of course, close with copy as well. And that being said, that's the end of this podcast. Thank you so much for joining us. Bye, everyone.